in this video, I'm going to show you all the basics of how to use a Kindle. The way I see it, there are 3 different levels that everybody goes through when figuring out how to use a Kindle. At the end of the day, even if you aren't very confident using a Kindle, even if you aren't very tech savvy or technology is not your best friend, don't worry. All that really matters is reading books. That is what a Kindle is for. So as long as you can do that, you are doing just fine. Now, in addition to this video, I actually wrote a very short book on this exact topic of using a Kindle. It's called Supercharge Your Reading: How to Use a Kindle to Read More Books and Remember What You Read. If you want to dive deeper into this topic and learn a bit more than the tips I'm going to share in this video, definitely check out that book. You can read the whole thing in under 1 hour from start to finish. I think it's a great resource if you want to go a little bit farther in your understanding of using a Kindle. All right, let's dive into it. Let's begin with the Explorer category. If you're just buying a Kindle for the first time and using it for the first time, you will be a Kindle Explorer. And let me show you a few of the most important things you got to know. Let's start with your home screen. So once you get past all of the setup and end up on your home screen, you're going to see 2 tabs at the bottom of the screen. You'll see the Home tab, which is the default. Then you'll see the second tab called Library. Now, even though you'll be seeing your Home tab by default, I don't actually recommend staying here for very long. I recommend using the Library tab primarily. This is because the Home tab is just full of Kindle recommendations. Amazon will always be trying to sell you new books, and the Home tab is just completely filled with recommendations that they think you might want to purchase. The Library tab will only show you books that you've purchased from Amazon. So if you've purchased books in the past, you'll see those books already showing up here. If you haven't bought any books yet, you'll see them appear in the future. This is the place where I recommend being because you won't see any other promotions for other books. Only things you've actually bought will show up here. Now, the next thing that's really important to know on a Kindle is actually how to open a book. And the way you do that is by going to your Library tab and then just choosing a book that you want to read and tapping on it. If it's the first time you're doing this, it'll download the book. It'll require a Wi-Fi connection. But once you do that once, it'll be on your device. You tap on it, it'll just open up like normal. The other way you can open up your most recent book is also by pressing the icon between the Home tab and the Library tab. There's a little book icon right in the middle. Pressing on that will also open up the last book that you were reading. Now, if you are brand new to the Kindle ecosystem and don't have any Kindle books, you'll have to buy some books from Amazon first. And the way you can do that is through the Amazon website on your computer or on the Kindle directly itself. On the Kindle, if you go to the shopping cart icon on the top, you'll enter the Kindle store and you can just do a search for any book that you want or go through recommendations and buy the book directly on here with one tap. But the one place where you cannot buy Kindle books that does confuse a lot of people is the fact that you cannot buy a Kindle book on the Amazon app on your phone. If you own an iPhone and go to the Amazon app and try searching for a Kindle book, they will show up, but the option to purchase the book will not be there. Now, I won't bore you with all the details, but there's basically a contractual issue with Amazon and Apple letting Amazon sell digital books on their iPhones. And again, it's very confusing, but long story short, if you want to buy a Kindle book, you won't be able to do it on the app on your phone. You have to do it on your computer or on the Kindle directly itself. And the last essential thing that I really have to mention here is if you're brand new to the Kindle, do not be alarmed by the screen of this device. It could be very jarring going from a phone or an iPad to a Kindle device. The e-ink technology is very minimalist and it will probably act a lot different than you're used to. For example, on your Kindle, when you're navigating around, you might see a black flash appear every once in a while, like the screen is acting up or something. That is actually completely normal. The screen is simply refreshing itself every few times you tap on it. And this is to make sure there's no ghosting left behind because the screen on this is nothing like your phone. The e-ink technology is meant to be resembling a real paper. And because of that, the screen is going to be much slower, but you get a much more comfortable experience as a result. So at this point, if you stop here, you should have all the basics of actually using a Kindle to read a book. You could open up a book, you can buy a book, and you can read through it if you want. But let's go into the navigator phase of the Kindle journey right now. Let me show you a few more important features that you'll probably want to use. Now, I just finished talking to you about how to open a book and buy a book on your Kindle, but now let me show you how to leave a book and exit it once you're done reading. This is actually a very common question I get. People are often confused of how to get out of this book they're reading and go back to their home screen. Let me show you how to do that. When you're inside a book on your Kindle, by default, you're going to have this full screen of text text, and you can tap on the left side to go back a page or the right side to go to the next page. But also, if you tap on the upper half of the screen, the top half of the screen, you'll have the ability to open up a few additional menu options. Just remember to press on the top half of the screen. I like to press on the top 1/4 of the screen to make it even more clear, because if you tap in the middle somewhere that may seem like the upper part, it doesn't always work. So just tap generally toward the top of the screen. You'll get access to these additional menu options. On the top left of this new menu bar, you'll have the back button to go back to your library or home screen. That is how you get out of the book that you're currently reading. So that's how you do that. But while we're here, let me show you a few additional settings like the font settings. On this menu bar, I want you to press on the AA icon. And when you press on this, you're going to see a lot of font settings appear. This is really where you can make your Kindle a custom reading experience tailored for your specific needs. I encourage you to play with the font size, the boldness, the margins, the line spacing. Make the Kindle reading experience the way it should be for you, and make it personal, because it really makes a big difference increasing the font size by 1 or 2 or adding some line spacing. All of these things can make the reading experience that much more appealing. One specific setting that I want you to pay attention to over here is under the More option. You'll see a few more additional settings here. The one that I like to turn on is called Show Clock While Reading. If you often lose track of the time while reading a book, I recommend turning the setting on, and you will now see the time appear on the top of your screen while you read. Now, if you exit the AA menu and tap back into the book, you will now have a few more options while you read that are a bit hidden. Let me first show you how to highlight while you read. If you press and hold on a word and then drag it across a sentence or a whole paragraph, or even between multiple pages, you can highlight anything you want while you read a book. Now, as a nonfiction reader myself, I highlight quite a bit while I read. Anything important that stands out to me, I often like to highlight it so I can easily find it later when I come back to it. Now, say if you just press and hold on a word without dragging your finger at all, you can actually do a dictionary lookup of that specific word. I use this feature often as well because I come across words I'm not familiar with, so this is very helpful for looking those words up on the fly. One more important menu that you should be aware of is the Quick Actions menu. Now, no matter where you are on the Kindle, whether it's your home screen or while you're in a book, if you swipe down from the top of the screen, you're going to open up the Quick Actions menu that has quite a few important settings. The most important setting that you'll probably see is the slider for your brightness control. Depending on which Kindle you have, this might be an automatic feature for you, but for a lot of people, you'll probably want to customize it to your personal preferences, and you might have 2 toggles, one for the warm light and one for the regular brightness. Similar to the font settings, I definitely encourage you to experiment with this as well. It's really, really important that you tailor the screen to match your personal preferences. It makes a huge difference while you read, especially if you're reading at night and you have that warm light option available to you. Crank that thing up. It makes a huge difference for your comfort. At this point in the video, I've shown you quite a few essential features. If you're a Kindle explorer or even a navigator, you should be in a really good shape to use your Kindle to read some great books. But now I want to take things one step further and really commit you to being a Kindle bookworm and show you some more advanced features. If you've purchased several books on your Kindle, you may want to begin filtering your library to show books that are only unread. For someone like myself, I have over 100, maybe 200 books on my Kindle, and I've read most of them, but there are several books I have not read as well, and I only want to see the books that I have as marked unread on my Kindle. And there's a way to do that using the filters option. On the top left of your library screen, you're going to see an icon that looks like a bunch of toggles. When you press on that, you're accessing the filters menu. Now, the filters that I use and recommend are using the downloaded filter, the books filter, and the unread filter. This will only show you books that are actually downloaded on your Kindle that are a book category, so it will exclude any PDFs and personal documents that you might have sent, and it will also only show you books that are unread. This is a great way to keep your library looking nice and neat and hiding away all the other content that you might have already read or don't necessarily need to see on your Kindle. Now, of course, that is what works for me. If you read a lot of personal documents like PDFs, or maybe you like to see the books that are not downloaded quite yet on your Kindle, having those settings and filters turned off will be very helpful for you. too, so just experiment to see what works for you. One other small feature that you might find interesting is opposite from the filters menu on the top right of the library screen, you'll have another setting to choose between a list format or a grid format. Now by default, your Kindle will come in a grid gallery kind of view. You'll see all your book covers in your library, but if you switch this to the list view, you'll see all your Kindle books appear in a nicely organized list. I sometimes enjoy using this view because it'll show a progress bar very visually of how far you are into each book that you have on your screen, so this might be a better option depending on your personal preferences. Now next up, I want to bring you to an entirely new part of your Kindle, and that is the system settings of the Kindle. To access the system settings, you go to the three dots on the top right of the Kindle screen and then open up the settings. The first setting I want to recommend for you will be under the screen and brightness section. If you go here, you'll see an option for showing covers on the lock screen. Now depending on which Kindle you have, this may or may not be there, but if you do have this option, it's a great way to turn your Kindle screensaver into the book cover of the book that you're reading. Another important setting that I recommend that you look at is under the device options section under privacy and security. By default, your Kindle will be sharing the information that you use on the Kindle with Amazon to personalize the advertisements that they serve you. I don't like this personally, so I turned this feature off. I don't want to share more information than I have to. And also, this is the place where you can turn on a device passcode if you want to have an extra layer of security on your Kindle. Now, like I've been saying for other parts of this video, I encourage you to poke around the system settings and see what else you might find. There are quite a few options here that you might like to turn on. It's all about experimenting. You could always undo anything that you change, so don't worry about it too much. Now, I don't want to overwhelm you with information, but at this point, you should have all the basic information that you need for using your Kindle, navigating around, buying books, reading books, changing settings, all the important things we did cover. But if you want to dive deeper, I have my short Kindle book called Supercharge Your Reading. A link for it is down below, where we talk a bit more of the advanced features to get even more out of your Kindle that we didn't talk about in this video. Now, if you prefer to watch my other video instead of reading a book, I have a whole other video dedicated to 15 Kindle tips and tricks. I do cover a bit of the same information in that video, but I also show you a few other things that I didn't talk about that you might find helpful as well. Link for that video on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.